Trigger pulls on shotguns are a whole lot more important than what most people think. You see, the brain calculates the lead based on what it thinks the trigger pulls are, and it sends a message to the muscles to pull. Now, if the trigger pulls are lighter or heavier than what the brain expects, then the gun's going to go off earlier or later than planned. If it goes off earlier, we shoot in front of the target. If it goes off later, we shoot behind the target. So having good trigger pulls on shotguns, really important. Now, adjusting the trigger pulls is really serious stuff, and only qualified individuals should ever attempt this process. We know that good trigger pulls make for better shooting because the gun goes bang when you want it to go bang. A lot of times trigger pulls are pretty hard on guns, and sometimes they're not heavy enough. Let's check the trigger pulls on this gun and see what it is and see if we need to do some work on it.
Yes, sir.
I've got a trigger pull gauge here. We'll check the front one first. This one's pretty heavy. Just a little bit over 6 pounds on that front one. I've got, about 6 1/8. And now let's check the back one. And 5 1/2 on the back one. So we got 6 1/8 and 5 1/2. And I know you're going to want to lighten those up. So have at it.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Now, ideally, I would say ideally the pull should be 4 on the front and 4 1/2 on the back.
4 on the front, 4 1/2 on the back.
4 on the back, half on the back. The back one must be 1/2 pound heavier. Finger part is further from the axis of the trigger. You've got more leverage on the sear because of that than you have with the front one. So that if you had them both the same, the back one would actually seem lighter than the front one. All right, so we've got to take the gun apart again because we only adjust the pulls on the sears.
So you're not going to work on the hammers.
No,
you're going to work
just
on the nose of the sear.
I'm not going to touch the hammers. The only time I'll ever touch the hammers if I can't get a heavy enough pull by working on the sears. It's inadvisable to mess with the bent, as it's called. That's the notch on the hammer where the sear fits. It's inadvisable to mess with that at all, really. So concentrate on the sears. It can be a rather lengthy job regulating trigger pulls because you can get one done in half an hour. Another one might take you 2 hours.
It's trial and error is what it is,
That's
isn't
right. It's a question of trial and error, and of course if you've got to keep taking it apart, putting it back together until you get the pull right. But on the other hand, if you get the pull very close, I mean you can regard that as correct because you could spend hours getting a pull down a couple of ounces, you know.
If you were looking for 4 1/2 pounds, what tolerance either side of 4
well,
1/2?
You might get 4 3/4.
So you think a 1/4 pound either way is what you would shoot for?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you see, the man who owns the gun, he can't tell by just firing it whether it's 4 3/4 or 4 1/2. And there again, you may get it to the situation. So you maybe get yourself in a situation where You could spend ages and ages and ages. And if the man
So
was...
we've just tripped the
yeah,
sears,
I've just fired
the gun.
Fired the gun. Now then, I release, ease off the sear spring pins. Now
You're just taking the pressure then off of the sears.
That's right. Just to get the sears out. There we go. Now then, the back one was, what we say, 5?
5.5 on the back one.
5.5. Well, we've got to get a pound off that. If you'll notice, it's the nose of the sear where we have to work. It's not much. It's not very thick.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a little diagram of here on the blackboard to decrease the pull. We're going to reduce the angle of on the nose of the sear by taking it back that way.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to increase the weight of the pull, I would make it increase the angle, not decrease it. In other words, make it sharper. This one I'm going to make it less sharp. So it's easier to pull out of the bent on the hammer. Okay, so now I'm going to try and alter this pull by angling the sear nose, or altering the angle of the sear nose. Right, now while I'm at it, now that's the left one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a look, do this one at the same. This one was 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see if we can take this one down a bit, put them back in together, both in back in together, and try them at the same time. If you shorten the sears too much, you can alter the position where the hammer's cocked, and also the position of the cocking lever.
Mm-hmm.
And that can cause the gun to eject every time you open the gun, because you shorten the sears too much, altering the pulls. I've seen it happen quite often, but I've seen it happen quite often on certain guns anyway. That tighten up those. Now then, there's a little to save putting it back on the stock every time. You can do it this way, but you can put that in there like that. Put that pin in there.
We don't need to completely reassemble it to check the pulls, is what you're saying.
That's right.
Sure.
This saves a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Put the snap caps in. Close the gun.
So what do we got there?
Now what we got there, we got that one. It says 3 3/4, and on that one.
And we wanted that one at 4.
That's right.
Okay, so I think 3 3/4 would be close enough on that.
And this one is.
Pretty good job on first try, Jack.
That's right. And that says 4 4 1/4.
4 1/4, and we were looking for 4 1/2.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How do you do that on one shot?
Magic.
Well, I think that one is just going to be just great. Let's go ahead and put it back together, and,
Yeah,
and we'll
okay.
take it out to the range.
Yeah, okay.